There are just so many other lovely ways that you can wrap up and end your yoga class. Hello you, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be talking through 3 alternatives to using the word Namaste to end your yoga practice. So for those of you who don't know or are interested as to why this video is titled in that way, it's because I do have another video on here about why I stopped using Namaste in my yoga practice, specifically at the end. I'll link the video up here so that you can go and check it out. But first off, I want to talk a little bit about why it's really important that we have alternatives. That is because if you are not sure as to whether you should be using Namaste at the end of your yoga class or not, or you just don't feel comfortable using it for whatever reason, I don't want you to feel, well, how am I supposed to end my class then? How do I wrap up the class? I don't just want to ask people to open their eyes and then that's it. I want to end in a different way. And there are so many alternatives, and I really want you to feel empowered, ending your class in a way that feels good for you. It also leaves your students feeling nourished and fulfilled. And really there are so many ways. I'm just highlighting my top 3, but if you want to learn more, you want me to do another one of these videos, let me know in the comments and I'll create another one for you. These are just my top 3. Whether you're a yoga teacher or not, this is going to be valuable for you, because if you're a yoga practitioner, you also may want to find other nice ways to wrap up your own practice, whether you're in a class with other people or whether you have your self-practice, your sadhana, and you practice yourself at home. Let's get straight into it. The first one I think is so important because it really shows the respect that we're giving to the culture from where yoga originated, which, if you know me, you know is really important. I hold a quarterly workshop called Respecting Yoga's Culture, which is online and available for anyone to join all over the world because it is an online workshop. And if it doesn't work with your time zone, then you get an automatic recording of the event straight to your inbox so you can watch it retrospectively. That really shares a lot more about the culture and why it's important to respect it. But this first way to end, I just think is such a lovely way to honor yoga's roots. And that is to give thanks. It is to give thanks and to think about all of the ancient yogis, the ancient sages, the ancient rishis that came before us, the different lineages and the tradition of the ancient centuries-old practice of yoga. Now, what you've got to remember is that without those people passing it down, before texts were invented, before they could write, a lot of these practices were passed down orally. So the chanting of sacred mantras, the practice of certain kriyas, cleansing rituals, the certain asana, the postures, loads of the different pranayam, the breathing techniques, these were all passed down orally, verbally, and then of course written about in texts that we've talked about a lot in some of the other classes on here. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, one of the most famous texts on yoga. That was a compilation of what lots of these sages and rishis had shared, and shared by Patanjali. Actually, many people don't know whether Patanjali was a group of people, one person. He has been depicted as half animal, half human. So a compilation essentially of lines, sutras, all about the practice of yoga. But if that didn't happen way back then, thousands of years ago, we wouldn't have the practice we have today. We wouldn't have access to it. And actually a lot of it would have been lost. Now, there has been quite a few things that have been lost over time, but obviously we still are able to have a beautiful practice today that is still so deep and brings us so much. So I want you to think about honoring those people, especially because when Britain ruled India, they made yoga and Ayurveda illegal. They banned it. And so again, you've got to think about those people who carried those practices on even during the time where they were being oppressed, so that we could still practice together today. That was a lot more recently than the thousands and thousands of years ago. So it's not so much the ancient sages and the rishis, but it's more the people from that country, the people from that region that really cherish the practice of yoga. So giving thanks to them and honoring the lineage, honoring the tradition and honoring the culture is a beautiful way to close off your practice. The second way I love to close off my class is to encourage yourself, if you're the one practicing, or if you're a teacher, encouraging your students to find gratitude for themselves. Now, I have been practicing yoga for years, my entire life pretty much, but had a more consistent practice for the last 10 plus years. And even though I am really consistent with my practice and I'm very regular with it, I will still have times where I struggle to practice. I will still get busy and wrapped up in life. And that is someone who is a regular practitioner. But I remember when I was a beginner, that fear of when you have never done yoga before and you want to get consistent with it. If you have just started and you've got into the flow of it, but then maybe you haven't been in like a couple of weeks, you've gone on holiday and you've not done any yoga, and then you come back and you're like, oh, I'm like terrified to get back into it again because you feel like you're going to forget everything. I don't know, there's just like a little bit of fear, I feel, when you've been away from a practice for a certain amount of time. And it might be because also yoga brings up a lot for us, so we kind of know what it's going to reveal to us, and maybe we're having a tricky time and we don't want to acknowledge what we're going through, and we kind of want to sweep it under the carpet, and we know that you can't really hide on your yoga mat. All of it will come out, essentially. And that's what's so scary about the practice of yoga. As much as it is relaxing and restorative, it can also reveal quite a lot to us. And the reason I want to say all of that is because that is why it's so important for you to find gratitude for yourself for making the time to practice that day. I'm just saying to your students, find gratitude for yourself. Say thank you to yourself for showing up and for staying committed to your practice. And whether you go tomorrow or whether you go the next day, or whether it's a month again till your next practice, still be grateful for this 20-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute, 1 hour, however long it is, it doesn't matter, session that you have just done. Could even be 5 minutes of breathing. Perfect. Just take a moment to say thank you, give yourself a pat on the back. And the third and final alternative to using Namaste in your yoga practice, to wrap it up, is to use the beautiful practice of Bhakti Yoga. Now, Bhakti means devotion or love. And so Bhakti Yoga is the yoga of devotion, the yoga of love. And there's many ways you can practice this, but what I'm speaking to specifically is the beautiful and my most favorite practice of chanting sacred mantras. So chanting has got incredible benefits for us. It is great for calming us down, relaxing our nervous system, resetting and rebalancing us if we feel we're a little bit out of whack. It's a beautiful practice to do on your own. No one else has to be in the room. But when you chant with other people in the room, like when I host chanting sessions on my yoga retreats, it is just magical. It's so emotional actually, and really transformative. People get very, very teary. They feel really connected. There's a lot of warmth, and you're connecting and you're uniting with everyone else that's in the room through that connected noise that you're making. And essentially the practice of yoga is all about unity. It's about coming together. And so that's a gorgeous way to end your practice. And you may have done an hour of movement, you can still close with a chant. It's actually a gorgeous way to bring in other elements of the practice of yoga into your physical practice. So you're really showing your students, if you are a teacher, that there's more to yoga than just the hour of movement if that's what they've done. And actually here's another additional element for them to maybe explore. It's also an educational piece for people to understand a bit more about the powerful language of Sanskrit. Sanskrit is often what we chant in when we are chanting mantras. And in terms of what to chant, I would say Om is a really nice connecting mantra. It's literally the primordial sound of the universe is what we say it is, and it's a connecting sound, and it's a really nice vibration that it brings. And then closing that off with 3 shantis. Now, if you want to know the meaning of the word shanti, why we say it 3 times, pronounce it correctly, I've done a video to share a bit more on that, so I'll link it up here. These are my 3 alternatives to ending your yoga practice. If you don't want to use the word namaste for whatever reason, let me know what you say in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, other yoga teachers, other yoga practitioners. How is it that you end your class? It'd be great to learn from you and see what else you do. But also let me know if you got value from this video by liking it, subscribe, it makes a massive difference. If you want other tips, if you are a yoga teacher, or if you're a bit more of a serious practitioner and you want other pieces of education and wisdom, then check out my Yoga Teacher Tips playlist. And of course, use the code YouTube to get 50% off my membership platform, Unearthed. We've got over 300 classes, all taught by South Asian yoga teachers. So you're really learning about the practice from the people who come from the culture from where yoga originated. It is a gorgeous online community of global members. You can access movement, meditation, breathwork, mantra, all different philosophy practices, so you can really deepen your understanding of what yoga is really about. Thank you so much for joining, and I can't wait to see you again very soon. Bye.